Hello everyone, this is Espert and we're back here on the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Now, I am very sorry, last time I had to kind of cut us off fairly sudden and short before the chapter was done because my son returned home. And so now we're here to pick up where we had to quickly leave off. So I'm not sure how long this chapter will be. Never know. But we shall see. Continue! Yes. We was really on a roll too last time, so let's see if we can remember where we was at. Let proceedings be resumed. Mr. McGilded, and I am once again, I will say I'm sorry if I say any names wrong or if I pronounce any words incorrectly. Sometimes they throw words at me that I'm not used to always speaking, so I will apologize about that beforehand, and I will do my best. Have you been listening to our discourse of the day? Hello, leader. It's great to have you here. The Grape Ape Attuning. Yes. To be sure I have, my lord. There are now two matters of which the court desires to hear from you. The first is whether or not there was a third party with you in the omnibus cabin as proposed by the defense. Is the music too loud? Just let me know if I need to turn the music down just a bit to hear me better. The second is that if such a person was indeed present, why did you conceal the fact from the police? Leprechauns versus Santa, let's go. Yes, he definitely looks like Santa. And I hadn't thought about that before, but yeah, he looks like he become a leprechaun, but he's in purple too, though. He's a purple leprechaun. Begad, no, 'tis not in my nature to hide anything at all. Just answer the question, please, and we have a vampire too. You sound nice over the music. Okay, thank you. Okay, that's good. The truth of the matter is, I've been desperate about this all along. Do I tell you so all, or keep my mouth shut? Tell us what, Mr. McGilded? And how has your day gone, leader? The fine fellow representing me is absolutely right. In the carriage on the night with myself and the other man, there was another passenger. It's true? Aye, and 'twas me who helped the little urchin get away after it all happened. You... What? I think it's juror number 1 who did it, actually. No, Magnus McGilded. The convenient excuse can't save you now. I'm truly sorry, so I am, Lord Van Zeeks. I'm sure you'll be wanting to know why I hasn't nothing when I was taken in by the police. I hopped in a Plants vs. Zombies stream and was cyberbullied. Uh-oh. That's never good. I'm sorry to hear that. I had a little trouble with my last Plants vs. Zombies stream I did. I had someone come in and it's kind of a lot of trouble, to putting it mildly. So, I do be having a very good reason, I assure you. Which was, well, the little child was just in the wrong place at the wrong time and not in any way involved, you see? What? If the police had known the wee one was there, they'd have assumed she'd done it. They'd have hauled her into here courtroom just like myself. I was only trying to spare her that. Young hearts and minds are easily damaged, my lord. Now who was this young child of whom you speak? That I don't know. You don't know? Aye, well, the wee thing just happened to be in the carriage that night. I never saw her before or since. We have absolutely no reason to believe this man. The prosecution calls for witness statements to be disregarded by the court. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if the urchin isn't here in the courtroom as we speak, listening to the proceedings. What? Bang! Ah, smoke! Ah, fire! There's fire! Look, someone's trying to get away! After them, it's no use! Can't see anything! What's going on? Be careful, Mr. Naruhodo. Cover your face. He called me slurs, then switched gears to me. Dirty. Oh, that's not nice. I'm sorry you went through that. That is never nice. That is not good at all. I'm sorry you went through all that. Some people can definitely be rude and mean in comments. Bailiff, don't let the accused escape. Secure the omnibus. I hereby call an emergency recess. How was my lovely Thursday? Hectic, little stressful, and crazy. So, but I'm here, and hopefully we can have a more relaxing time than everything else. I hereby call an emergency recess. Bailiff, ensure the defendant is in custody and clear the courtroom. We were hurriedly removed from the smoke-filled courtroom by the bailiff. Amidst the seas of chaos of as people stumbled over one another in their desperation to flee the chamber. We had no idea what was happening. All we knew was that for the time being at least, the trial was suspended. That's where they're gonna put, yeah, that's where they're gonna put the... We were so close to a continue last time, but I had to get off. It's fine. I'm more impressed he did on a do that as the stream. He was the streamer doing that? Oh my goodness. I am sorry to hear that. I am very sorry to hear that. I wonder if he lost any viewers or followers doing that. 'Cause that's not nice. You shouldn't do that to people. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, what on earth is happening in there? Mr. Naruhodo, I've managed to find out what happened. Miss Susato, I was told it was an advanced form of smoke grenade, type of exploding device that releases smoke. A smoke grenade? It sounds like the sort of thing ninjas use. They're just making sure everything is safe now. I think the trial will start again before long. But who would have done something like that? The police managed to catch someone who was trying to flee the courtroom, apparently. Flee the courtroom? Why? Well, it's a young girl of around 15, I hear. She probably could have snuck out without, causing such a racket. She just brought attention to herself now. A young girl, then could it be the other passenger that Mr. McGilden was just talking about? My thoughts exactly. So he wasn't lying. Oh, what's become of Mr. McGilden, actually? There were so many things I need to ask him about, but he's not here. I think he was summoned to the prosecutor's antechamber to answer questions. Along with the young girl. Who is she, I wonder? And what was she even doing here at the trial? She's taking a huge risk, and for what possible benefit to herself? There's another matter that's troubling me. What's that? Someone vaped in the courtroom. That's what it seemed like almost, but that was a lot of smoke for that. The 20 pence. Huh? Oh, according to the coachman, Mr. Beepo, he took 4 passengers that night at a fare of 5 pence each. That comes to a total of 20 pence exactly. But now it seems they were in fact 5 passengers, which means the figures don't seem to add up again. She's right. That is strange. Counsel to the defense, kindly proceed into the courtroom. The trial will recommence in 5 minutes. Oh, thank you, officer. We'll go in straight away. Well, whoever she is, I imagine this young girl will be asked to take the stand and testify now. She could have just snuck out, probably. She caused such a racket. I really can't imagine what she's going to say, but I would It could alter the whole direction of the trial. Very convenient. Imagine being named Mr. Bebo. That'd be rad. I know. What is it? Trying to think. The show. I'm having a brain moment. Oh goodness. It's the C&W show. The superhero. The oh goodness. It's kind of. They have a Beepo on there, like a big old blue thing that just keeps popping up. I've seen it before. I haven't watched all the shows, series of that. Oh, that's gonna bother me. What's it called? That called got Captain Cold in it. What is that? Legends of Tomorrow. That's it. In Legends of Tomorrow, I believe they have a Beepo in there. Like, it's a blue, like, toy doll thing, and they've, like, made several references to it. That's what it makes me think of. We'll know soon enough, Miss Susato. Yes! There's the young girl next to Mr. McGilded. Look, she must have been the one who caused the disturbance before. Well, after that rather eventful recess, the court will now resume the trial of Mr. Magnus McGilded. Now then, Lord Van Zeeks. My lord? I believe you have established the cause of the smoke which veiled proceedings earlier. Seems to have been an advanced form of smoke grenade of the sort typically employed by the army. Good gracious, the army? What in the devil's name? It was an elaborate attempt by the young girl to cloak her escape from the public gallery, but she was caught, and now occupies the stand. Huh, your name, girl? Are you responsible for the smoke grenade which induced many pandemonium here in my courtroom? What is the meaning of this deplorable behavior? Ahem, if I may, my lord. Yes, Mr. McGilded. I think perhaps I ought to explain here. Why is it that this wee lass was here in the first place, and why she tried to bolt like that? 'Tis all tied up with the events of the night, so it is. Very well, Mr. McGilded. Give your testimony. You'll explain to the court exactly how this young woman is involved in the case. Just what did happen that night? It's not like like the defense lawyer needs that information or anything. On the night in question, I took the back seat in the omnibus and promptly nodded off. Then a graw, a loud thud, and a wee scream woke me up with a fair start. There was a fella collapsed on the floor at me feet, so I set him up on the seat across from me, and then I turned to find out where the scream had come from, and bless my soul, what did I find? There was a child in there, all curled up in a ball, hiding her wee self away. I remained somewhat baffled, I confess, but from what I gather, on the night in question, this young girl was indeed riding in the omnibus. Is that correct? She's a witness. "'Tis exactly as the defense counsel said. This last was the 5th passenger, my lord." Very well. The defense may now cross-examine the witness. Are you ready, counsel? Yes, my lord. Or rather, no. I have no idea where to start. On the night in question, I took the back seat to the omnibus and promptly nodded off.
Hold it!
And when you first got on the omnibus, were there any other passengers already on board? There was not. The cabin was empty and there was no one on the roof deck either. You were the first passenger, as it were. I see. Aye, and that's when I took the backside as I did. 'Tis the most comfortable, so it is. Could you explain exactly what you mean by the back seat? By all means, is as you already described it earlier. I'm talking about the seat opposite the one in which the poor gentleman who was stabbed was sitting. Like I said, 'tis the most comfortable and where I feel most at ease. And of course, I enjoy gazing through the skylight from time to time as well. Then, bagara, a loud thud and wee scream woke me up with a start. A loud thud, you say? And a scream? Aye, that's right. How can I explain it? 'Twas like the sound of someone falling to the ground. That sort of noise. So you think it was the sound of Mr. Mason falling to the floor having been stabbed? Well now, you'll remember I was asleep at the time, so I wouldn't like to say. And when the sound woke me and I opened my eyes, there wasn't a soul to be seen in the carriage but the fellow on the floor. You didn't see anyone, but at the same moment you did hear a scream. Ah, from the seats above you on the roof deck, I presume? Not above me, no, my lord. 'Twas from inside the cabin. But it wasn't altogether thinking about the scream. No, I was too stunned by the desperate sight before me eyes. There was a fella collapsed on the floor at my feet, so I sat him up on the seat across from me.
Hold it!
You sat him up? The victim, you mean? That I did, on the seat across from me. As I said, I could plainly see the poor devil was already gone, and you wouldn't leave a dead man just lying on the floor now, would you? 'Tis common courtesy, so it is. I find that a little hard to believe. Lord Van Six. Now why would that be? You wake to find a man lying dead at your feet in a carriage. Any normal person would hail the cabman. Anyway, upstanding member of London society, that is. Well now, as you know, I am in something of a special line of business. The business of lending money at exorbitant rates of interest. Unfortunately, my lord, not everyone is thankful for the help I offer them, and some would even see me dead. So I do try, where at all possible, to avoid getting myself in a tangle with trouble. Are you suggesting you are just going to leave the man there? Heavens alive, no. I was always intending to report it, so I was. Only I had a mind to find out the whys and wherefores first. The whys and wherefores. Right you are. There were some details I wanted to understand before anyone else got to meddling. Life hack, always make sure to get your grubby fingerprints on corpses. I like the kitty cat. Always get the blood on your gloves, right? That's what he did. He ended up getting blood on his gloves. That wee scream I heard, for example. Wouldn't your good self do just the same? Yes, the scream he says he heard at the same time as the thud on the victim collapsing. Then I turned to find out where the scream had come from, and bless my soul, what did I find?
Hold it!
I'm afraid I don't understand. That's not a life hack, that's how you get arrested. Yes, hello, word machine. How are you doing tonight? I'm sure you told the courts that there was no one else in the carriage except yourself and the victim. So I did, sir. So I did, as far as I could see, that is. What do you mean by that? Well now, 'tis interrupting the wee scream I heard as I woke up. It came from, if you excuse the vulgar expression, under my backside. Goodness gracious. Under your backside? Oh, there's a hidden compartment under that seat, I want to say. When I lifted the seat on which I'd been sitting, I found that there was a wee cubbyhole there for storage. Mr. Naruhodo, we examined the omnibus ourselves, remember? Yes, of course, the whole bus was submitted as evidence. It's a life hack for free meals and shelter. I like that cat too, that's a good cat. He makes me think of Bill the cat out of what's it called again? Oh goodness. What's the comic strip called? I keep having brain moments. I should know this. Bloom County from Bloom County comic strips. It kind of makes me think of that, but like a black cat version. Spills orange. This would be a very good time to have a thorough look around inside. And that's when I found her. There was a child in there, all curled up in a ball, hiding her wee self away. Ah, stowaway. That explains the fair price, too. You say she was hiding herself? Dilbert? I like Dilbert, too. I do like Dilbert. Dilbert's a good comic strip. But this one's Bloom County. It's an older strip. And it's got like Opus the Penguin and Bill the Cat in it. It's pretty funny. I've got a lot of the books for those. I do have a lot of Dilberts too, though. Dilberts are good. That's assuming you don't get the death penalty. You never know. In here, it's automatic death penalty if we lose this trial. Yes, he's automatically will get the death penalty. Aye, that's right. 'Twas hard to see in the dim lamp light, but she was all curled up in a wee ball when our eyes met. Well, my heart nearly stopped beating in my chest. Ugh, you're really overacting this. Still, and all, I pulled her out from under there and sat her on the seat opposite so I could have a wee chinwag with her. Seat opposite? That's right, just next to the dead gentleman there. You sat this young girl next to the corpse, sir? You still get a last meal and a nice comfy chair. No promise that the chair's comfy. It might have straps on it. You never know. Well, as I am sure I mentioned, a gentleman in my position can all too often find himself in mortal danger. So, I need to find out just who this urchin was, you see. And while I was in the middle of talking with her, I heard another scream, a fellow's voice this time. Presumably that scream was Mr. First, who was sitting on the roof deck seats. Right you are again, I would say, sir. Looking down through the skylight, he must have seen this young girl and the gentleman with a knife in his belly. In other words, the previous witness did not in fact see you at all, Mr. McGilded. What they believed to be yourself and the victim was in fact this girl and the late Mr. Mason. Aye, my lord. It was, as I think everyone understands now, set at the back of the carriage out of sight. It is certainly plausible. The defendant is somewhat diminutive in stature and readily confused perhaps with this young girl. After that, of course, with the scream from the gentleman over us, the driver realized something was wrong and pulled up the horses. Thank you, I've heard enough. I've sat in an electric chair. It was rough wood, but the unpowered electrodes were kind of like a head massager. That sounds scary. Still to sit in one. I'm assuming it wasn't like one that was plugged in with risk of injury. Maybe it kind of felt like you was gonna go get your hair done, get a big ol' hair. Did it feel like it was gonna, like, blow dry your hair or something? Thank you, I've heard enough. The events are, as explained, are clear in my mind. However, at least one conundrum remains. Who is the girl? At least one? There's more than one. Who still killed the dude? I've never sat on an electric chair. I've been briefly locked in a jail cell. That sounds scary too. I've not experienced either of those. So they both sound scary. Her name is Gina Lestrade, my lord. She's a chancer, earns her crust among large crowds, relieving people of their purses. It was unplugged and antique. Wouldn't want to test its wiring, though. Probably not. It might catch fire. For one thing, among other things. What's commonly called the pickpocket. What? This girl here? A petty thief? Order! Order! Is this true, Miss Lestrade? Miss Lestrade, you'll answer the question. Ah! She just shot Santa. How dare you? What is the meaning of this? And she's gone. Ah! The girl! She's gone! Open your eyes. I'm over here. Good gracious, out! What was the point in that little sidestep? I know what you lot are thinking. Grown-ups are all the same. Your history with arson caught up with you, eh? The sturdy little dipper, you'll say, slipped up and got caught on the job. She got herself backed into the corner, so she knifed the gent. Go on, that's what's in your heads, isn't it? Not at all. This is a court of law. We're here to determine the truth, not cast... De-arm this girl. Who the heck let her keep her guns? Look, knives are for cowards. Only thugs use weapons like that. All I need for what I do is these fingers. I think you've been hushed, leader. I think she's shushing you. I'm a professional, alright? Maybe not in your eyes, but I got pride in what I do. Let me guess, you don't count smoke guns among weapons for thugs. Oh, this? Yeah, this was in a bag I lifted the other day. Down where you keep the four-wheeled drags. It's nice, isn't it? I like the pink best. Ah! Do not wave that thing in my direction again! So, you admit that you were riding the omnibus on the night in question. "'Tis alright, lass. You can tell them the truth now." You grown-ups are all the same, ma'am. You look like a 34-year-old steampunk cosplayer. My father was a police officer. We were touring his work one weekend. We also met the SWAT team and the K9 unit. Oh, that sounds a bit interesting. So that was probably much more interesting than other ways that you could have ended up in jail. So that's interesting. That's cool. Alright, yeah, it's just like the Irishman said. The court accepts this girl, Miss Gina Lestrade, as a valid and significant witness in this case. Accordingly, young lady, we will now hear your testimony, if you please. You'll tell the court exactly what happened in the omnibus on the night in question. Alright, if I have to. So I snuck inside the carriage before they hooked up the horses just like that, like always. But it was right old waste of time. I got nothing to show for me troubles that night. I'll tell you, you can't see a blind thing in that hiding place. It's pitch in there. Then after a while, I heard this loud bang. Nearly jumped me out of the skin, I did, and the scream just came out. because of that this swell found me. He did help me get away, mind. Did he put you in the cell when you didn't finish your veggies? Yes, he let you go. I fail to understand why you would let the street urchin go, Mr. McGilded. Oh, 'tis simplicity itself, my lord. You see, she couldn't possibly have killed the other passenger. I knew that for a fact. How? As I'm sure I said before, sir. He was sitting on her. I was sitting right on top of the place where she was hiding herself. I think I demonstrated it. Demonstration is called for. Joke's on you, I like veggies. But all veggies? This is where I was set that night, and the cubby hole of which you've spoken is underneath the seat, I presume. Yes, it does appear large enough to accommodate someone of that girl's stature. Most of them, yes. Good. Probably like more than I do. I eat my fair share, but there's still plenty I don't like. But of course, the wee lass was stuck in there. Because I parked myself on the seat for the duration. So you see, that's why I let the lass bolt. I knew that if the police found her here, they'd automatically assume she'd done it. But I couldn't live with myself if a young life was ruined when all the time I knew she was innocent. Even though you must have realized your actions would result in your own innocence being called into question. Not at all, my lord, not at all. See, I think it's him by the picture we saw before, but we'll see what happens. I knew in my own heart that I was innocent. So I thought it was worth taking a punt on my own good name for the sake of this less fortunate lass. My goodness. What a perfect gentleman. My lord, this fine example of a man cannot possibly be guilty of heinous crime like this. I'm ashamed of myself for ever doubting you, sir. Not him, then. Okay. He would be trying to get... I thought it was him because he was really trying to pin it on him. It seemed like. With calm, calculated reasoning, one arrives clearly at the truth every time. Oh. Did we win? Saints alive! All 6 members of the jury consensual in their leaning to the verdict of not guilty? I completely swapped that around. Heinous, yes. I know how to say it, I just sometimes say the wrong thing when I'm saying it fast. I like all veggies except onions because they have a texture in between ringworm and toenail. Okay. My son might agree with you. He doesn't like onions. Unless you hide it in something and he doesn't realize it's there, then he don't care. He doesn't notice it. Mr. Naruhodo, this... Well, it must mean what? That we're victorious. We've won? Are you sure?
Objection.
Oh, he put his foot up there. That's a new sign. If the sight of my iron-heeled Wellington offends, pray do forgive the discourtesy. Get your shoe down. I know. This really is a consummate example of the one monumental flaw in British judicial practices, where evidence and reasoning should be paramount. Emotion rules the day. Emotion. Most people have the same opinion of onions. A lot of people do. A lot of people do. The witness's latest statement gives us a clear insight into his true nature. What do you mean, his true nature? Do you really think Scotland Yard would have made such a glaring omission? After the incident, the omnibus was comprehensively searched by officers of the police. Obviously, the interior of this cubbyhole, as the witness put it, was included in the investigation. The compartment under the posterior seat was full of the coachman's belongings. It's noted in black and white here in the police report. The evidence has been tampered with. In order to corroborate Mr. McGilden's story, someone has unlawfully removed everything from under the seat. What? Order! Order! How could such a devious contrivance possibly have been affected, counsel? Naturally, we must acknowledge the deficiencies of the constabulary in allowing this to have happened. However, I assure you, when the omnibus was wheeled into the courtroom this morning, the compartment under the seat was not empty. Well, my Nipponese friend. Me? When the carriage was submitted as evidence, doubtlessly you examined in fine detail, as would any self-respective practitioner of the law. I'm pretty sure I do remember the stuff being in there. Pray, what did you find the conditions of the under-seat compartment to be? Oh, to be sure, the young gentleman will be able to clear this up in a jiffy. Sorry. Go ahead. You tell the court now, fella. How this is all an elaborate excuse by the desperate Lord Van Zeeks. Well, counsel, do you have something to say on this matter? How am I supposed to answer? What can I say about the state of the little compartment under the seat in the omnibus? Van Zeeks versus Harry from Night Court. There was bags in there. I seen something, but I can't remember if it was actually the omnibus or if it was like a picture shown to me. Can I see? Can I see inside? Did you look? I did look earlier, but the thing, no, not today. It was my last playthrough I looked. So I'm trying to remember. I think we can look at it in here though. No, go inside. Go in, go in. Ooh, this is snazzy. I know. Here. It's empty right now. I can't remember. Oh no, I thought I remember there being stuff in there though. Goodness me. Oh, am I gonna get a bad verdict? The other one didn't have one. It was just the one compartment, I want to say. I'll double check though. Okay, because he sat on this side. The skylight, they were sitting up here and they looked down this way and saw the murder happen on this side. So he should have been here. Yeah, murder happened here. Okay. Yeah, there's no handle here. So it's just there. Oh, goodness. Now I'm torn. I'm trying to remember what I thought I saw last time. You cannot wait to play this game for yourself. It's a good game so far. Oh, goodness. It's empty right now, but I'm pretty sure I remember some. But if I say it wrong, I might get a guilty verdict and have to redo some of this. I don't think it was empty. Because some of this doesn't line up. I really don't know if giving this answer is helping my cause as counsel for the defense. But as far as I remember, at least, When I first examined the compartment, I'm fairly certain there was a number of articles inside it, yes. Are you sure, Counsel? Just say you didn't look. But I did look! Ah, be whist. What are you saying now, you daft doll? I thought you were on my side here. I hope I didn't mess up, because there's several things I don't think is lighting up. What game are you playing? Your task is to defend the man in the stand. Why would you say something to compromise his position? Because I think he's gonna go for the truth, because I don't think there's truth here. I think when she smoke bombed it, something happened and someone stole stuff out. As the advocate for the defense in this trial, I confess I'm still not entirely sure where I stand, but it seems to me that I should state what facts I do know as clearly and as honestly as possible. Interesting. 'Tis not altogether pleasing fella, and he's not the best guy. He's kind of a crook. You gotta gaslight him. Because he will do things a bit dirty. I think he's trying to lead me. I'm not sure. I'm simply telling the truth, Mr. McGilded. Well, don't forget you're supposed to be representing my best interest here, lad. Now then. A fellow's memory is a curious thing and not altogether reliable. No, the court must consider the facts. That their cubbyhole under the seat is as empty as the devil's heart, so it is. Do you think perhaps it would be in your best interest now to admit that you might have been mistaken? Why? Why do I feel like something's not right here? I should like the jury to weigh in on this matter, I think. The compartment is designed to house equipment used to maintain the smooth running of the carriage. That was it! It was all the carriage guy's, Beepo's belongings. He had stuff to keep and maintain the carriage. That's what it was. I remember them saying that. So yes, there was stuff in there. No, he's a pure, non-tax evading, virtuous leprechaun. He would loan people money and expect high amounts of interest, and then would take all their stuff away when they couldn't pay it by a certain date. The guild's rules state the omnibuses should be properly and fully equipped at all times, so it certainly wouldn't have been empty on the night in question. Beepo isn't that irresponsible. That money-lending fleecer and the pick purse are lying. Uh-oh. Ah! I can't believe I was nearly taken in. The stinking rich are always stinkers. Nothing but cowards, the lot of them. He looks like Beepo. A bit. He looks like Beepo. What? Oh no. I just hope I didn't kill him by admitting the truth to them. I'm pretty sure. It's a trick, of course it's a trick. These stories really fling you both ways. You think you're getting somewhere and then it flings you the other way. Quite so. I must concur here. I still say it's the juror with the knife. You never know. I think it's the short guy on the end with the hat, the juror number 1. Honestly, it looked like him in the picture that they showed. Do I have a picture? No, I don't have a picture, I don't think. But they showed like the view of what one of the guys had seen from the roof, and it looked like him a lot. It definitely wasn't the girl, but I don't know. With calm, calculated reasoning, one arrives clearly at the truth every time. Yes, but every time a different truth, it seems. My lord, I humbly exhibit the scales of justice. Clearly, the verdict of not guilty at this time would be wholly inappropriate. Thank you, counsel. But before we proceed any further, there is the matter of the outstanding cross-examination. Counsel for the defense, begin your questioning of the witness, please. Because it was too soon to also say that he was not guilty. We haven't discovered... It's very traditional to figure out who did the murder here on the stand. Yes, my lord. What just happened? The whole balance of the trial just shifted almost beyond recognition. The Reaper of the Bailey is at work, it would seem. So I stuck inside the carriage before they hooked up the horses, just like always.
Hold it!
So you were already in the omnibus before it even set off on its run? Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, what's the point of spending a joey to make a few bobs, eh? That's a rum idea, isn't it? I suppose she means there's no point in spending money to make money. Actually, it makes sense. Counsel, may I remind you that this girl is a petty thief? Kindly refrain from entertaining her tenants. Well, that does clear up a little mystery of the fares and all. 4 paying passengers at 5 pence apiece, making the 20 to which the cabman testifies. One little scapegoat riding, scapegrace riding for free. The red conch of a driver always goes for some grub before its last run, see? So that's when I slip into the carriage, get myself hidden under the seat. Nice and easy, right? This is London, you know. They don't even use inches, ounces, or feet there. Wacky. But your hiding place is a storage compartment full of equipment for the coach, no? Yeah, there's brushes and buckets and whatnot in there, sure. I've always chucked out all that and crammed it in a corner somewhere. No one ever seems to bother much. Yet, according to the report filled by the police officer who first arrived at the scene, the compartment was full of such paraphernalia. You guys are the only country in the world who does. Are we the only ones? I don't know. I haven't looked up if anyone else uses inches, ounces, and feet. I know a lot of people don't. Well, I don't know nothing about that. Like I said, I moved all that stuff out so I could add it under the seat. That's all I can tell you. It seems we've reached the end of the line of inquiry. Continue. But it was right old waste of time. I got nothing to show for my troubles tonight.
Hold it!
A waste of time? Why is that? Well, most nights on me own and the permit at least some of the time. That's why we're also the only ones with beavers and dennies. Beg your pardon, did you say God permit? Oh yeah, well that's what my kind call it. You say the omnibus, I suppose. Point is, any normal run, the carriage ain't got no one in it for a while. That's when you come out of your hiding place and get away. That's it. Only that night, this cove was on me seat from the start. And he didn't budge the whole way, did he? Not 1 inch, I was totally stuck. Beavers are the national animal of Canada. Careful, he might steal them all. Because we're particularly the best with no flaws, issues, and division. You mean to tell us that you were present in the carriage for the duration? You were under the seat the entire time while events unfolded in the enclosed cabin? Yeah. Right, mister. To be sure. I was as shocked as anyone. You don't expect to lift the cushion where you've been sitting on to find a child now, do you? So this Miss Lestrain couldn't possibly be the culprit then. Those are industry plant beavers irrelevant. I'll tell you, you can't see a blind thing that hiding place. It's pitching there.
Hold it!
So you couldn't see out into the cabin at all? Not a jot. Most days I push the cushion up with me and look out the crack Then I can have at butcher's at who I'm fiddling, who I'm going to fiddle. I thought you were a pickpocket, not a butcher. I mean, I can't have a look. The seats I get under ain't as plush as the other one, see? So most of the time, the passenger plants themselves opposite. Also, there's only 3 countries in the world who do not use a metric system. That's interesting. I've never gone and actually looked it up. So, that is interesting. But for some reason that night, this here Irishman spent the whole journey right over me, Ed. And for that reason, you weren't able to push the cushion up to peek out, I see. Truth is, I ain't too happy in the small dark places. Feels too much like being thrown in the clink. But it's the only place to ride in carriages, so it's obnoxious. Why doesn't you just stick to picking people's pocket and open then? I'd say there's some reason that she's not letting on, judging by her demeanor. So anyways, I was a bit scared, but I had to just stick it down under there and nothing else for it. Then after a while, I hear this loud bang, nearly jumped me out of the skin and did, and that scream just came out.
Hold it!
When you say a loud bang, do you mean the noise of someone falling to the floor? Could have been, I suppose. I don't remember so well. Point is, it made me jump. You let out a scream involuntarily? That's right. And then I felt the cushion above me head get lighter all of a sudden. Presumably when the defendant got up in order to help the victim, yes? Or not. It could equally have been the movement the accused stood in order to stab his victim, could it not? Well, girl, did you see what happened at the crucial moment? Yeah, I saw it. I pushed up the cushion and I quit butchers while I had a chance, didn't I? Irishman was sitting up. The bloke had fallen on the floor on the seat opposite. That matches Miss McGilton's account, of course. But then the fellow suddenly turned around and looked right at me. I sunk back down again, but it was too late by then. I should never have risked looking. It's because of that the swell found me. He didn't help me get away. He did help me get away, mind ya. And when Mr. McGilton discovered you, he pulled you out from your hiding place. I was scared stiff, I was. He dragged me out and sat me down the seat and all. Next to the victim, Mr. Mason? Yeah, the bloke had a knife in his gut. He was still bleeding. Then the carriage lurched a bit and he ended up falling onto me. Ugh, how awful. She speaks in a Cockney's accent. Where's that from? I don't know my accents, really. Both me and both my hands got covered in blood and made me feel sick as a dog. Both her hands covered in blood. That must have been what the rooftop passengers saw. After that, I believe you talked with Mr. McGilton for a while. Is that correct? He asked me stuff, wanted to know my name and what I was up to and that. Then I heard something from above. Someone screamed. Yes, Mr. First on the roof deck, one would presume. Well, I didn't want no one see my face, so I didn't look up. When the horses were drawn up smartish, and this here Irishman says to me, "Get back under the seat. I'll see that you get away later." It's the accent Adele has. I know the name Adele. I don't listen to Adele. So I don't know how she sounds really. All 6 members of the jury had decided the defendant was innocent. For one brief shining moment, yes. It's clear that they are still very unsure. England, it's the accent of the lower class. Think of the phrase, "Hello, governor." Oh, okay, gotcha. Gotcha. If we could just find some conclusive piece of evidence among this new testimony, I'm sure we could clinch the verdict we want. Yes, I think you're right, and I have this niggling feeling. Something's bothering me, but I just can't quite put my finger on it. So I snuck inside the carriage before they hooked up the horse just like always. Trying to think. We got nothing to show from your troubles that night. What stuff do I have? Trying to decide what I'm looking after. What am I looking for? Conclusive piece of evidence. What am I missing? Nope, nope, nope. She hid. Was there stuff in the carriage when she hid in there? I think there was stuff. Well, she said that she took some stuff out, but I don't know. But I don't have a way to present that is the thing. Either. Also, fun fact, Carly Rae Jepsen, the Call Me Girl Maybe, is older than Adele. Interesting. No, wrong button. Can we look inside? Does it actually tell me anything more? Okay, probably not. The carriage. I like it says Phoenix Wright Omnibus on the back. Oh man, he got ketchup on his gloves when he was eating French fries. Yep, that's so ketchup. I was just finding a two general sit side by side. Can you present the carriage? I could, but I'm not sure what I would do. Very impractical, aren't they? Or as the Brits call them, a full English. Yeah. I wonder though. Let's press her and see if he changes actually, because they will the other people react sometimes. I'm gonna repress her on her stuff. So, I mean, let's see. I'm gonna see if I notice him. I sneeze, right? Yeah.
Hold it!
Waste of time, why is that? Does it react any? One thing I did notice is he said that he liked the other seat the best because he thought it was like the softest, but she says that most people don't sit there because it's not the softest, but I can't question him. Trying to decide.
Hold it!
That feels opposite.
Well, no.
There. Hello.
Excuse me.
Is something wrong, Mr. McGilded? Oh, I do apologize. Was there something the matter, Council? I'm just wondering if Miss Lestrade's last comment made something occur to you, perhaps. You seem to be thinking something to yourself. Oh, no. 'Twas nothing important. I was feeling bad for the poor lass is all. I remember feeling desperate myself as a young lad, shut up in the dark. It was terrifying, so it was. I see. Yes, I'm sure we can all sympathize. I'm so scared of the dark now. And I don't know about yourself, but I find that the darkness seems to make everything you hear seem that much louder as well. Yeah. I suppose it does, maybe. Miss Lestrade. Did you hear something that night? Anything? Unusual noise, perhaps? Nah, not really. All I could hear was the Irishman snoring. Be jabbers, there's no telling the whole world of me foibles, you little scamp. What a pity. If only Miss Lestrade had heard something, it might have given us a vital new clue. Yes? What should we make of that last statement of hers? It's important because he was asleep when it happened. My lord, we know it's important because he actually smashed the desk and didn't just do the little hand flap. I believe the statement just made by the witness is profoundly important. Profoundly important, but all she said was that she heard nothing. Yes, which is profoundly important point. I'm almost sure of it. I'm almost sure that I don't understand the inner workings of your Eastern mind, Counselor. Nevertheless, Miss Gina Lestrade, you'll supplement your formal testimony by repeating that last statement, please. What? Supplement? What do you want about? Don't give me all your fancy talk. I know what you're trying to do. Well, it won't work on me. That's right. Insult the judge. Always a good move. I was straining my ears to work out what was going on, but all I could hear was snoring.
Hold it!
So you were straining to hear what was happening the entire time, since the moment you hid yourself? Not exactly, no. Sorry. Well, there was no one in the cabin to start with. I could just push the cushion up and have a butcher's to see what was what. I know what her... It's probably the same accent, I don't remember exactly. But when I was a kid, I used to read these books called Mandy, a Mandy series. And they had some accents like this, it sounds kind of like. So I think that's what I'm kind of thinking of when I hear her talk. But then when I saw this swell getting on, I got my head down so he didn't notice me. Mr. McGill had sat on the seat under which you were hiding, correct? Yeah, with you, Adam and Eve. What a mug. So then all I could do was listen. I was waiting to jump out there as soon as I heard him leave, see? But would he not? Would he? Not likely. Even though we stopped here and there, I never heard the door open. I just had to stay and listen to him driving his pigs to market, snoring like an old dog he was. Are there any conclusions we can draw from that, I wonder? To me, it makes sense because it means he was sleeping. I think so. Well, that all seems to make sense. You took your time reaching that conclusion, Counsel. What was that from Van Zeeks? For a second, I thought she called Ryunosuke a muggle. Never know. He is, I think, so. Is he laughing? Very well then, continue with your cross-examination. Then after a while, I heard this loud bang, nearly jumped me out of skin. It did, and the scream just came out. Cause that the swell found me, he did help me get away, mine. Okay, I think I was supposed to say something about, actually, about that new piece. Okay. I probably should have said the other way on that. Okay, let's do that again. It doesn't add up? We'll try that. Miss Lestrade, what you have just told the court is clearly at odds with the facts. Huh? At odds. Are you sure, man? Absolutely. It seems my learned Nipponese friend is not as dull-witted as I feared. So Van Zeeks realizes it too. I wish I realized what it is yet. I'll figure it out though. Counsel, I must insist that you bolster your claim with evidence, or some complicit party's name at the very least. Yes, my lord. I expect you to demonstrate this alleged contradiction to the court. According to Miss Lestrade, while she was hiding in the omnibus that night, she heard nothing but the sound of Mr. McGilded snoring. But think, Ryunosuke, think. There's something she should have heard. I'm thinking. Should have heard. Trying to remember. Should have heard him get on the bus. I think, yeah. I'm gonna say a person. Very well, my lord. Allow me to elaborate. On a particular sound that Mr. Lestrange could not have failed to hear on the night in question. The sound very clearly explained by the presence of the following person. We're gonna try him. I might get hit though. Show your badge! My armband? I have an armband. Thrice fired Mason? Yes, my lord. The sound that Miss Lestrange cannot have failed to hear is that of the victim, Mr. Mason, boarding the omnibus. Order, order. Explain your reasoning, counsel. Miss Lestrade, allow me to confirm something. You claimed earlier that you were the first person on board the omnibus, is that correct? Yeah, of course I was. I got on while the driver was in the pub, didn't I? And the next person on board the omnibus was Mr. McGilden. That it was. Not a soul was in the cabin when I climbed aboard. At least not in plain sight. So you were, to all intent and purposes, alone in the enclosed cabin of the omnibus at that time. Did I not say as much? I wasn't traveling with anyone else, if that's what you mean. Yeah, I saw him get on, remember, through the crack under the seat cushion. He was on his own for sure. And from what we've heard, the carriage made a number of stops after that on its onward journey. During which time, did you not hear the door opening or closing at all? Nah, I never heard it. That's exactly what I was listening for, weren't I? Waiting for the swell to leave. In which case, when and how did the victim end up in the carriage? Ah. We know that the victim collapsed inside the enclosed cabin of the omnibus. Therefore, Miss Lestrange's statement about what she did or did not hear is at odds with the facts. Ah, okay. Yes, this petty thief's statement was clearly flawed. Lord Van Zeeks. Yes, he knew. He knew all too well that there was an inconsistency in Miss Lestrange's statement. It would seem words of thanks are in order for my learned friend. What are you talking about? You have demonstrated matters impeccably. This witness and her colorful statements are entirely unreliable. Her words are convenient untruths, nothing more. He's dead right. How could the victim possibly not have boarded the omnibus? That makes no sense whatsoever. And the girl is a pickpocket. Let's not forget that. Granny, no! I've really done it. I keep saying things that makes them less believing me after I turned all their belief around. Ah, she didn't even say anything. I didn't want to judge dear little mite just because she had some rather naughty ways, but I must say, I can't abide liars. Neither can I, Mr. Foreman. I didn't want to judge the girl just because she has some less than salubrious ways, but I must say, I cannot abide liars. Granny wants blood. She doesn't like people that's dishonest at all. Ugh. Mr. Naruhodo, that's 5 jury members leaning towards guilty. Well, your consideration for others is refreshing, my Nipponese friend. To the considerable troubles you have spared me. Yes, very refreshing. Ah! Ah, where are you playing at? Have you forgotten who you're working for? You useless Eastern Madon? Madon? This is carnage. It's perfect. You creep me out, dude. Juror number 2 is the only one left. Mr. Naruhodo, the way this is going, I know if we can't find some new way to convince everyone of Mr. McGilden's innocence, the judge will rule and we'll have lost. I very much wanted to believe the words of one of London's most respected gentlemen, but those of us in service know we must accept hard truths.
Hold it!
Yes, the witness' last statement seemed to have revealed a critical inconsistency in her story. However, if we consider the possibility that her statement is in fact the truth, it may shed an entirely new light on the whole case. What are you saying? Counsel! I'm sorry, sir. Whatever do you mean? Counsel, I will not tolerate you attempting to prorogue my adjudication. Probably said that wrong. Explain yourself at once. When the accused boarded the omnibus on the night in question, the victim was nowhere to be seen. Subsequently, the carriage door was not heard opening a single time as testified by the witness in the stand. And yet the victim's body was found inside the carriage. If this petty thief's words are to be believed, how do you explain the victim's miraculous appearance inside the cabin of the omnibus? There's only one way to explain how the victim came to be inside the carriage. Oh goodness. Adjudication. I got it right? Okay, good. Yay. Okay, bad thing is, I don't know the answer to this. He was put there after he died? The door was locked, though, from the outside was the problem. There's another entrance. He was in there already. Trying to decide. Another entrance. Did he go through the skylight somehow? I'm gonna try it. I've got no penalties yet. At least slapped it hard. If the door wasn't opened even once, you're on your own for this one. Hey, he slapped it hard. I bet I got it right then. The only explanation is that the victim entered the enclosed cabin some other way.
Objection.
I wondered what new fantasy you'd come up with in your blind panic. But behold, the omnibus is here for you all to see. Only one side of the enclosed cabin is furnished with a door, the others are only windows. Fixed windows, which cannot possibly open. In short, there's no entrance to the cabin other than the door. But there could be. There's one possibility you haven't considered. Oh, really? Yes, one other way inside that isn't the door. Another opening that the use of which allows the victim to appear inside the enclosed cabin. Alright, counsel. The defense will identify the location for the court. Here's the omnibus in which the incident occurred. Where on earth is this entrance by which you propose the victim entered the cabin? Okay. I'm thinking it's the skylight. Oh.
Take that!
Ah, he hit her again. The answer is obvious. It can only have been the skylight. I say, the skylight.
Objection!
Your ludicrous proposal almost had me lost for words. However,
Objection!
the skylight may well be large enough for someone to pass through.
Objection!
So you claim. But do you have a shred of evidence to support your idle brain theory? Both Mr. McGilden and Miss Lestrade said the same in their testimonies. They each claimed to have heard a loud thud, such as the noise made by someone falling to the floor. Oh. So he was killed on the roof? Yes, which has already been explained as the sound of the victim falling from his seat having been assaulted with the dagger. Yes, it has, but would a man slip from the seat onto the floor really and made such a loud noise as the witness described? A noise loud enough to cause Mr. Lestrade to let out an involuntary cry, in fact? Good gracious! Perhaps, in fact, that was the moment that the victim made his entrance into the cabin. No, let me rephrase that. The victim didn't enter the cabin as such. He fell into it.
Objection!
You're now suggesting that the victim fell from the skylight into the cabin? That's simply impossible. How can you be so sure? Because if the victim had fallen inside through the skylight, as you say, the passengers on the roof deck would have seen it happen. And yet, not one person made mention of such events in their testimony. Yes, that's true, but hold it. Might a humble fella make a wee comment here? Mr. McGilden. To be sure now, the two fellows who were sat on the roof that testified before said nothing of the victim falling through the skylight. But it seems to me, my lord, that 'tis not so much a case of them not saying, but aye, 'tis a case of them being unable to say. What? I think perhaps the two fellows do be having something of a compelling reason not to mention what happened. Would you not agree, fine ladies and gentlemen of the jury? Oh my goodness, surely not. Those two chaps on the roof? Oh, she's going 90-0. You mean the ones who stuck the knife in the man were... Oh! Granny had a shock. She might get a heart attack by the end of all this. What exactly are you insinuating here, you blither? You rotter, he said, you rotter. What are you insinuating? I've not seen him do that. He's angry. This is a flaming outrage. I've a good mind to give you a blinker in a minute. He'll give you a shiner in a minute, he said, and so will I. Mr. Fairplay. You're effectively accusing me, a city gentleman and well-respected banker. And me, a very angry hatter. Suggesting that someone like me could have stabbed the man in the guts. It's a disgrace. It's scandalous. I protest in the strongest possible terms. That's right, I protest too about you, you rotter scoundrel. Order! It's not the time, witness. I will not permit this wanton invasion of the stand. Wanton. Return to the anteroom at once. But this is beyond reason, my lord. It's outrageous. It's very hurtful, you know. My lord, if I may comment. Go ahead, Lord Van Zeeks. It was the defense that incited this outburst from the witnesses. My learned friend has seen fit to abandon all protocol and accuse the witnesses without proof. Accused? I never intended to. It seems, young Nipponese, that your command of the English tongue is wanting. You proposed to this court that the victim fell through the skylight from the roof deck of the omnibus. That the hypothesis cannot possibly stand without the rooftop passengers being aware of the events. You have branded these gentlemen liars. You have intimidated their criminal guilt. In our British court of law, this is what is termed a baseless accusation. I know it was rash to put that idea forward without any actual evidence, but you can't just dismiss it without a second thought. What are we wasting time for? Get them to testify. I thought there was something fishy about that hat from the moment I laid eyes on the fellow. We have to see this matter through now, one way or another. If there's filth and rubbish in our midst, we must dispose of it at once. What's happening, Mr. Naruhodo? The spectators in the public gallery they're in complete frenzy. Mr. Fairplay and Mr. First. My lord? You'll take the stand again and make another formal testimony. In reference to the indictment brought by the defense. Yes, my lord? I didn't come here for this. There's no time to think this through. All I can do is keep pushing forward. We were the only two people up there on the roof deck, dead or alive, I can swear to that. If anything had happened there where we were sitting, don't you think one or the other of us would have noticed? In any case, neither of us know the first thing about the victim. We had no reason to kill the man. The skylight was shut the entire time, I tell you. He couldn't possibly have opened it. If you're so sure the victim fell through the skylight, where's your proof? I must say that on listening to this testimony, it is somewhat hard to imagine how either witnesses could have performed any malevolent act on this open rooftop deck without the other noticing forthwith. That's right, you see. We're innocent, I tell ya. Although logically, of course, the argument falls down if the two of you are in collusion with each other. What? Eh? According to investigations by Scotland Yard, the two witnesses share no common dealings. Ha! Well, I don't trust coppers any more than I trust the stinking wrench. Something doesn't feel right here. The trial is going in our favor, really. So why do I feel so uneasy? Counsel for the defense, over to you. Your cross-examination, please. Oh, yes, my lord. We were the only two people up there on the roof deck, dead or alive, I swear to that.
Hold it!
So at no time did the victim, Mr. Mason, climb up to join you on the roof deck? Absolutely not, Dickon. No question about it, he said. None at all. Oh, but yes, of course. I remember seeing them both. I saw the victim inside the enclosed cabin talking with this man here. Is this true, Mr. McGilded? Dear me, my lord, at the risk of repeating myself, I boarded the omnibus alone and nodded off inside almost immediately. That's an outright lie. Without doubt you are engaged in... Let me stop you there, fella, and ask, do you have any evidence at all? Tis all about evidence in the court these days, so it is. You'll be doing well to remember that. Ah, I saw you with my own eyes. This is going so well. If anything had happened there where we're sitting, don't you think one or the other of us would have noticed?
Hold it!
Well, it was on the final run of the omnibus at past 10 o'clock in the evening. It would certainly have been quite dark, perhaps too dark to see clearly. Is this some kind of lark? Is this some kind of joke, he said? Is that what this is? Or perhaps one or the other of you fell asleep briefly. Are you fair dinkum, sir? Are you serious, sir? That's what he said. It's impossible, I tell you. I'd give you the keys to the vault if you could fall asleep in that bitter cold. And if you did manage it, your eyelids would freeze shut and you never open them again. That's extreme. It was extreme, I tell you, and we had to put up with it because his man had locked the door. Any true gent would have unlocked and let me in when I knocked. I'm dreadfully sorry about that, young fella, but you see, I was away with the fairies. I didn't hear ye at all. That's a lie. I saw you through the glass. You were talking to someone. Now. 'Twas a cold night, so it was. People do be seeing things that aren't real in the cold. 'Tis hardly surprising. Same things. I believe we have reached an impasse here on this particular point. Ugh, you. Don't take it personally now, lad. If I'm a suspect in this case, then it's only fair that you and the other fiend are too. Open and free competition is what a capitalist society is all about. This isn't a competition I'd like to be involved in, really. In any case, neither of us know the first thing about the victim. He had no reason to kill the man. Yes, I don't know. So you had never met Mr. Thrice-Fired Mason before? Oh, no, not once, never. You never met the man before, I said. Never. And you, Mr. First, had no prior dealing with the victim either? That's right, sir. Hatters don't have much to do with brickmakers, to be honest, perfectly honest, sir. No, I imagine not. You see, how many different ways can I put this? Either of us have the remote connection to the gentlemen who were inside the cabin. Ah, what do you have?
Excuse me.
Mr. McGill did. Yes, counsel, what can I be doing for you? Did the witness last statement give you a pause for thought somehow? Not the remotest connection. Is that right now, I wonder? What are you insinuating now? Oh, Mr. Fairplay, it has been too long, so it has. If I'm not very much mistaken, I believe 'tis fast approaching, is not your repayment date? I beg your pardon? You borrowed 20 guineas from me, sir. At an unconscionable rate of interest. You tricked me. It is extortion. Well now, is that a touch of begrudgery, is it? The sort of begrudgery that might motivate a fellow to pass his crime off on another. Ugh. And young Mr. First. But me, sir? What do you want with me, sir? You do be making hats for living, do you not? That there top hat sliding about your head. Is that one of your own creations, is it? Oh, well, I'm still just an apprentice, you understand. I'm learning to find the perfect fit for whatever fine gent walks through the door. The perfect fit, is it? Well, 'tis a very distinctive design, so it is. Many customers like it, I tell you. They like a distinctive touch. Customers. Such as the Thrice-Fired Mason. Ah! He does have an interesting hat, doesn't he? There was a photographic print of the victim submitted as evidence for my lord. Oh yeah, this you mean? I can't thinking that the poor fellow's hat looks distinctly familiar, wouldn't you say? Oh. That's one of my hats. Aye, that it is. So it seemed the brickmaker was a customer of yours. The sort of customer I'd wager you could have had a wee quarrel with over the distinctiveness of the goods. Oh no, sir. Absolutely not, sir. Well, there's really nothing more to add. I wouldn't be right to say that the two fellas here haven't the remotest connection to the victim, you see. I rest my case. You little weasel. Arr. He's better at this than I am. God, Gosh, Mr. McGilden has certainly been thorough in his research, hasn't he? Please don't let me that interruption hold up the proceedings. The skylight was shut the entire time, I tell ya. We couldn't possibly have opened it.
Hold it!
Are you quite certain about that? That the skylight was shut the entire time? I'm gonna lose my block with you in a minute. He's gonna lose his rag with you in a minute. That's what he said. Quit repeating him. Take a look for yourself. Go on. You see, it's shut fast now, just like it was on the night. So it is, of course. A fellow the size of Mr. Mason could likely break right through it, still and all. What? Just looking at the size of the thing, you'd understand. Ah, now you hold on here a minute, sir. The size of the thing means nothing. Not on its own. Let's consider the bigger picture here, shall we? Let's stop biting our cane, shall we? I was riding the omnibus on another occasion when, well, I broke the wind loudly, and I shocked myself with this as it happened. This is an unexpected confession, Mr. First. Oh, I just meant to say, well, the point is, I tried to open the skylight, you see? But just my luck, I couldn't make it budge. The stench was terrible. Everyone was looking daggers at me, sir. I went as red as a rogue, I did. As rouge. Are you expecting me to sentence you? Oh, no, sir. The point is, the skylight can't be opened. I tried and tried when I was inside the cabin of shame. But that's for the inside.
Excuse me.
Do you have something to say about that, Miss Lestrade? Miss Lestrade. It opens. Skylight. That it is what we're talking about, right? Who are you gonna shoot now? All them skylights open dead easy. More easily than you can load that weapon. That's a lie, I tell you. Otherwise, when I broke wind, you can't do it from the inside, you mug. Oh. Look, a few weeks ago, I was up on the roof deck of one of them drags. And I had a great haul. I had bursts come out of my ears. Miss Lestrade, this is not the forum to be eulogisting on the subject of your criminal activities. Well, anyway, I had a bit of scare. Then I lifted the last book's purse. He got wise to me. All four of them surrounded me, so I couldn't hop off the bus and leg it. So what I did was I used the skylight. I opened the catch and jumped right through. What? Yeah, the catch for them skylight is on the top side. That's why you can't open them from the cabin. Skylight opens from the roof deck. Bailiff. Climb up on the roof on the omnibus at once and verify this witness's claims. Right there. Ah! Oh, my hat! Let's see. Order, order, order. So it appears that the street girl statement is quite true. I don't believe it. The skylight opens, and from the roof deck, Mr. Naruhodo. This could be the clue that we've been looking for. Well, counsel for the defense, please continue with your cross-examination. Yes, my lord. So, the skylight opens. Perhaps I should investigate for myself.
Hold it!
Proof. That's right, I demand to hear it. We came here to say what we saw, I tell you, not for this. But you can call us both shysters, brand us as criminals. Call us liars, that's what it means, and you accuse us of doing it. As it stands at the moment. There's no hard evidence that incriminates ye cells, now is there? I believe there is such same position as one another here. Ugh. If I don't crack this case soon, he'll crack his teeth. I wonder if these two men really are involved in some way. I couldn't say. I mean, I don't really know anything about them, do I? Although, by the same token, I don't really know anything about Mr. McGilden either. It's so hard to know what to believe here. I think we should try to remember that it's evidence alone that can truly determine the outcome of this trial. Evidence. No one can argue against decisive evidence, including the members of the jury. So you're saying that what we need now is find conclusive pieces of evidence. Yes, Mr. Naruhodo, precisely. Okay, I want to go look at this. So the skylight was fastened shut before. But now the catch has been undone, we should be able to open it. You can certainly see inside the carriage through this opening, that's for sure. Yes, and there's a lamp in the enclosed cabin, so I'm sure the witness would have been able to see quite clearly. That's not good for us. So this is the roof deck of the omnibus. You must have a wonderful view of London streets up here. Some people sit all the way up here. Bitter winter nights with cold air rushing past them. They have to pay money to do so. Brr, can't imagine how cold it must feel. That just made me think of something horrible. Can you imagine being dragged around the city in a freezing cold as a punishment? Perhaps that is the real price you pay to stay out late. Okay, let's go inside and see if we can look up. Go inside. Can I look up? There. I found blood. Yes, it does open very wide, doesn't it? Wide enough to kick someone like you through, certainly, Mr. Naruhodo. Why someone like me? Ah! What is it? Look, just there. Look at this. That's, without question, it's blood. Why would there be blood stain here? Surely, it can't be unrelated to the case, can it? The details of the omnibus have been updated in the court record. Good, that's what we needed. Okay, back up. I don't want that statement. Where's your proof? We're gonna present this. On the night in question, the victim was fatally stabbed in the stomach, and immediately afterwards the victim's body was pushed through the skylight into the cabinet below. Those are the facts and the irrefutable proof. It remains clearly visible in the omnibus that stands before us today in this very courtroom. What? That's utter humbug. Ah, you can't possibly have any evidence. No, you can't. I mean, we didn't do it, I tell you. It's impossible. Irrefutable proof here in this courtroom? Counsel. My lord. I believe everyone would appreciate a little clarification here, huh? Where exactly within the omnibus is this evidence to which you allude? You will point out what it is that proves the victim fell from the roof through the skylight.
Got it!
By Jupiter! Is that blood? Arg! This bloodstain proves two things. Firstly, when the incident occurred, the skylight of the omnibus was open. What? And secondly, the victim was already bleeding when he fell through the opening. Oh my. And so it follows that Mr. McGilden, who was inside the enclosed cabin himself at the time, cannot possibly be guilty of this crime. No! Order, order, order!
Hold it.
But the blood could have been sprayed up there when the fellow was stabbed inside the cabin. And only found its way to the one particular spot on the skylight? Sure. And that would be very convenient. And let's keep it in mind, the skylight catch can only be unfastened from the roof deck. I myself wouldn't have been able to open it now, would I? But. There's no way to know for certain, is there? If the gents really fell through the skylight, I mean. Why don't you have a good look at the floor of the cabin between the two seats, Mr. First? 'Tis all too plain if you see. Where's the aftermath that shows the poor fellow dropped from the fair height? Right there, so it is. What? No. But it can't be. It's at all lies. My fellow juror members, I think we can all agree that this is clear proof of the defendant's innocence, can't we? I believe we can, yes, sir. It's clear to me now that where the filthy rubbish can be found in the courtroom. And so, they thought they could pull the wool over my eyes, did they? I won't tolerate any of the guild's carriages being sullied with blood. I won't tolerate it. Oh, I always knew that nice gentleman who gave us that delightful park couldn't have done such a thing. On three then, everyone. 1, 2, 3.
Objection.
A chilling performance, Mr. McGilded. Oh, and what would you be referring to now, Lord Van Zeeks? A bloodstain on the frame of the skylight. Such evidence is null and void. What? Why? For one extreme simple reason. That smear of blood never existed.
Objection.
What are you talking about? It's there for all to see, and it's clearly blood. I personally attended Scotland Yard's investigation of the omnibus. The officers involved went over the carriage with a fine-tooth comb. So I can't state with absolute certainty no such smear of blood existed in the carriage. At least not until this trial began. But are you suggesting, Lord Van Zeeks, that the stain of blood was fabricated, my lord? Yes. Well, this court has been in session. What? Oh, come on, just let me have this. What a palaver. I must say I didn't expect such crude reasoning from a prosecutor of your standing, Lord Van Zeeks. But I'm Magnus McGilded, a fellow known all over the capital for his fine contributions to public life. I don't take kindly to slander, and I'll fight it to the bitter end. Even if it's rolling off the tongue of the Reaper of the Bailey. Mr. McGilded, I realize that this is your first appearance in court as the accused. However, I am well aware of your involvement behind the scenes in a great many affairs of dubious nature. You're very adept when it comes to avoiding getting your own hands dirty. And each time it happens that a case you're involved in is investigated, you adapt the facts. Adapt the facts? What does that even mean? When you wield the fortune the side of Mr. McGilded's, however ill-gotten it may be, nothing is impossible. Tampering with evidence, manipulating the scene of a crime, bribing witnesses. I toast your ability to concoct the most convenient of stories, sir. Tut-tut, Lord Van Zeeks, this will not do, to be sure. Will it now, Consul? Oh, no. I think it's fair to say this does all sound like a rather far-fetched excuse by a desperate man. The blood on the skylight didn't exist, you say? But if he's... Well, cast your minds back. Is it not true that the omnibus here has been in the courtroom the entire time? How could anyone possibly have put a smear of blood in that the the world and his wife seeing. Isn't that right now, Council? It's true. Omnibus has been in full view the entire time the court has been in session. My learned friend. Here's to hearing your opinion on this matter in your own words. As you wish. Could someone have tampered with the omnibus during this trial? If you're asking me, I think it could have happened during the big cloud thing in the issues earlier. Yeah, it is possible. As a defense lawyer, it's my job to advocate for the defendant as best I can, but still, I feel as though something's even more important at stake here. There is no evidence to suggest that the defendant did as my learned friend suggests. However, in terms of having the opportunity to carry out the alleged tampering, there is one possibility. Oh! Good gracious. Explain yourself, Counsel. Yes, there is. It seems my learned Nipponese friend has no intention of running from his deceit. I'm sure everyone still remembers clearly the recess that we were forced to take. As a result of the smoke grenade fired by the witness currently in the stand, Miss Gina Lestrade. Yep. The courtroom was filled with the smoke, and everyone was thrown into confusion. All of us were made to leave this chamber. In that brief interval, under the veil of smoke and all the chaos, it could have been possible to steal inside the omnibus. Are you wise? Where are ye trying to pull, ye rotten feckless googer? Feckless googer? You're supposed to be defending me. 'Tis a wicked plot. 'Tis a plot to undermine me, so it is.
Objection.
Whatever you think this is, it changes nothing. The facts are the same. After this courtroom was evacuated earlier as a result of the smoke grenade, a number of inconsistencies materialized in relation to the omnibus. Inconsistencies such as, to start with, the storage compartment underneath the rear passenger seat. When the police investigated the omnibus, this compartment was full of the driver's items. Secondly, we have the smear of blood on the edge of the skylight. As I said, that was not present at the start of the trial this morning. Unfortunately, Lord Van Zeeks, no one is able to corroborate your claims. That's true. When the omnibus was first wheeled out, both the storage compartment and the skylight were shut. Currently, I'm afraid to say, we cannot establish with any certainty if this evidence is the result of tampering or not. Indeed, my lord, no doubt there is not a single person who saw fit to verify such things. What do you think? Sorry? About the omnibus. Is there anything else unusual about the omnibus? My lord? Yes, counsel? There is one further inconsistency. I don't know yet what it is. Mark that surely could not have been present at the start of the trial. What? What in the devil's name are you going to say now? If you dare to betray me, you little maggot, you'd better start watching your back.
Objection.
Silence, McGilded. The court awaits the defense clarification. Grr. This trial keeps swinging one way and then the other. I have no idea what's the truth and what's deception. What am I supposed to believe here? I shall have to ask you to elaborate, counsel. What mark? Where exactly is the alleged mark that you claim appeared at some point during the trial? What mark am I thinking of? I don't know, honestly. Something besides the blood. Can you open this? No. These two are both here, aren't they? Or was that not here before? I remember this one. This looks fresher. It's not as dark. That's blood, isn't it? Is something wrong? Oh, it's just, well, this blood stain is so obvious that and yet Van Zieks has made no mention of it. I suppose it does seem a little strange. Why do I have such a bad feeling about this? It's that.
Got it.
If we consider that the victim fell through the skylight onto the floor of the cabin, you'd certainly expect to find signs of blood where he landed. But as far as I recall, this blood stain on the cabin floor was not there when the omnibus was first brought into the courtroom. Yes, I do believe you're correct, counsel. Well said. Although, as advocate for the defense, one might say that it was a very careless slip of the tongue. I believe that the bloodstain on the floor is a decisive piece of evidence. But if the question is whether evidence is genuine or whether it was unlawfully fabricated by someone, I feel compelled to admit that there's at least a possibility that the evidence is fake. Arg! This trial is over. Mr. McGill did. I've done everything I possibly can to cooperate the court, but it's all over now. But you're the defendant. Tis over, I tell ye. Memory, recollection, what people think they saw. Tis all nonsense. Facts are what counts. The fact is, the bloodstain is there now. Well. And over the course of this disparate trial, long and extremely drawn out as it has been, that good-for-nothing Reaper of the Belly has failed to present any decisive evidence at all. I'm scandalized, so I am. I thought better of Lord Van Zieks. Well, my lord, I must concur with the defendant. The unaffirmed recollections of the individual cannot stand as evidence. At this moment in time, the particular bloodstain in question is very much in existence, in the absence of any credible method by which to prove its alleged previous non-existence. I regret to say that it would be improper for this trial to continue. Your lordship can't be serious. Lord Van Zieks, what is your position? The prosecution, my lord, has no further witnesses or evidence to present. Very well. In that case, as I believe we have explored every possible avenue in this matter, I shall proceed to my adjudication. As a formality, I am of course obliged to perform with the defense first. What formality? As things stand at the moment, it would seem that Mr. McGill will be found not guilty. Yes, which would mean we've won. Is that really the right outcome here? Is it really alright for the trial to come to an end now, with all these unexpected inconsistencies? Counsel for the defense, your closing statement, please. Yes, my lord. The defense believes... So many inconsistencies. I don't think this trial is supposed to end now. The defense believes... I am here in this courtroom today to advocate for the defense of my client, Mr. McGilden. However, at this moment in time, I cannot in all good consciences attend fully to the defense's innocence. What are you saying, man? Without any question, there is no conclusive evidence to prove that the defendant is guilty. However, there is also no conclusive evidence to prove that he is innocent. Good gracious me. Order, order! This is unprecedented behavior, counsel. A defense lawyer calling the accused innocent into question. Are you of sound mind? Uh-oh. Oh, 'twas a grand decision to appoint you as my lawyer, so it was a grand decision. What? I must say I didn't expect you quite as much exciting spectacle at the end there, but still, here, have this for your troubles. Your job here is done, fella, and some fine work you've done, so ye have. What do you mean? Tis just as the right honorable gentleman, so... Secondly, put it afore. I've said that so wrong, I'm sorry. Trial can't go anymore. And your closing statement there was, how did he put it now? Not more than a formality. I don't like this guy one bit. I really don't know what to make of all this. Was the evidence we've seen genuine or was it fake? His lordship would be fuming, and unsightly rubbish should be disposed of properly, as I said. Seeking rich are always guilty of something. You mark my words. I feel terribly ashamed that I ever doubted that lovely man who gave us the lovely park. Now that the proceedings have unfolded in this way, I am compelled to declare a premature end to this trial. Furthermore, the court must accept the defendant's plea. I thank you kindly, my lord. I hereby pronounce the verdict of this court. But we still haven't determined if the blood stain in the omnibus is genuine or not. We don't know if these witnesses are telling the truth or a pack of lies. We have no idea about the truth. Lord Van Zeeks. My lord, the case made by the prosecution was flawed, plain and simple. If indeed the omnibus presented as evidence was tampered with, the prosecution is at fault for allowing such a disgraceful perversion of justice to take place. I feel bad for the dude now. My sincerest apologies, my lord.
Objection.
Didn't like him earlier, but now I feel bad for him. But wait! When we were evacuated from the courtroom, Lord Van Zeeks ordered the evidence be secured. I'm afraid the prosecution cannot shun responsibility in this matter. That's so unfair. The culpability of the defendant has not, at the present time, been established by this court. Consequently, the jury will not be required to offer judgment. What? Well, Lord Van Zeeks, it's been a pleasure, so it has. And as for you, my dear fella, I couldn't have asked for a better defense. You mean to tell me this has all been a grand waste of time? Just the law of the land, my good man. If you'd like to pursue this matter further, you can always go ahead and try to change the law. Magnus McGilded. Good grief, you've more to say to me, have ye? Just one thing, a warning. This is far from over. Well, something to be looking forward to then. I hereby pronounce the defendant, Mr. Magnus McGilded. I don't feel good about that verdict at all now. Oh no. That was kind of a mess of a trial. Can't believe it. This is an outrage. They should have examined the evidence more. What are you talking about? The man's been cleared. He's innocent. With the courtroom in pandemonium for a second time that day, the judge delivers his verdict. And my first ever trial in Great Britain came to an abrupt end, with the defendant being found not guilty. Ostensibly a victory for us. Oh, I said that wrong too. I'm sorry. That certainly was a long trial. Yes, it was. Your first ever trial on foreign soil and your first victory. It was a wonderful performance. My heartfelt congratulations to you, Miss Susato. Thank you for your assistance. I suppose we should be happy. Trouble is, we're still completely in the dark about what actually happened. Well, we didn't have enough time. But isn't it wrong? I mean, who is actually responsible for Mr. Mason's death? We don't even know that. The sole aim of the defense is to obtain a verdict that exonerates the defendant. Carried out your duty to perfection. Aye, that you did. Mr. McGill did. Ah, and the girl with him is with him too. Well, it seems the stories are true. Oh, what stories? About the 6 enormous fireworks that they do be letting off when there's a verdict of not guilty. I'm sure you must have seen them now. Spectacular, wouldn't you say? Yes, definitely. I've heard it was a sight to behold, and to be sure, it was. You to thank, I suppose, for having an opportunity to see it. Oh, I don't know about that. I'm not sure I really did anything. What on earth are you saying, fella? How did I walk out of there free as a free man then? I don't think it was much thanks to me as down to your planning. You're a straight talking fella, aren't ye? I must say, ye had me a strange in the head there once or twice. But you're young and headstrong. It is water under the bridge. Congratulations, Mr. McGilded, on having your name cleared, but nothing resolved. There's only one thing that matters to me. Oh. Aye! They've all seen that I didn't do the odious and obstinate deed. 'Tis grand, is it not? I suppose it is. Now the fine fellows of Scotland Yard can take matters in their hands and sort out the wee details. They'll see it for what it is. They'll get to the truth. I've absolute faith in them, so I have. After all, I do be providing a good number of their wages with all the taxes I pay. It's not that funny. So then, as we agreed beforehand, 1,000 guineas for your troubles, fella? Oh, no, 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 I couldn't possibly accept that much. Oh, be whist, your humble people are ye? You from the east? Well, if you insist. But have this. Still in all, ye deserve a reward. Mr. Magnus McGilded. Everything is ready, sir. If you'd like to follow me into the courtroom. Into the courtroom? What's this, officer? 'Tis sooner than I led to believe. Hope it's not inconvenient, sir. There are some changes to the schedule. Well, I must be making tracks now. It's time for the inspection. Sorry, what inspection? They're going to examine the omnibus again, so I'm told. I asked if I could be present for it myself. They're going to examine it again? Now? Naturally, I'm under no obligation to take part in any more of this matter now, but as an upstanding member of London society, I do be doing my best to help where I can. It is a gentleman's duty, so it is. So then, fare thee well. 'Twas an absolute pleasure meeting yous. Hope you have a whale time while you're studying here in Great Britain. And there he goes, a free man. Oh, I forgot she was here too. Don't shoot me. Girl. Don't move. Or as I want to say, get a move on. She really does take forever to load that thing. Miss Lestrade, would you mind putting that thing down? You're grown up. Sorry. And I ate all grown-ups. Ah, there you are. Uh-oh, who's this girl? Naughty, naughty, running off like that. Is this some kind of picnic? Who's this little girl now? And taking that with you as well. I was looking forward to the trial run of my experimental smoke grenade launcher. Ah! Oh, don't you want to play? You won't beat me. Excuse me, but who are you? Oh, good day to you. I'm, well, the inventor, I suppose, of that machine. The inventor? Well, no more smoke grenades are so dull, don't you agree? White, white, and more white. If you have to be shrouded in smoke, it would at least be a pretty color, I thought to myself. Do we have to be shrouded in smoke, though? At all? Just took my eyes off for a moment while I was changing in a different omnibus and she pinched it. Luckily, I fitted it with a telegraphic beacon. Telegraph? What's it? What? I have no idea what the girl's talking about. Anyway, you come with me now. Back to my laboratory. What? What for? My child, apologies, of course, silly. To my technician. What? You mean say sorry? You must say sorry when you've done something wrong. Surely an adult has told you that before. An adult? I don't listen to no adults. Come along then, follow me. Fine, I'll have it your way. Oh good, you see I knew you want to do the right thing in the end. I'm fairly sure that what she wants is not to get shot by that massive gun of yours. We'll be leaving now then, bye bye. I'm sorry for all the fuss. She was a lively one. Well, do you think perhaps we ought to be on our way now too? Yes, you're right, but where to? Oh, we haven't had time to find a place to stay. No sooner had we run London than we rushed here. All our traveling cases are still with the bailiff. I was originally planning to spend a day in search of lodgings, but this late hour in the day, I'm afraid we may be out of luck. Don't worry though, I have a plan. If the worst comes to worst, I've heard of a lovely park where we can spend the night. Please tell me you're not thinking of McGilden Park. I know it may be a little chilly at this time of year, but your usefulness will see us through. I'm not so sure about that. I think a midwinter London night will freeze a young person solid just as easily as an elder one. Oh dear, that doesn't sound agreeable. I'm starting to regret turning Mr. McGilden down. 1,000 guineas would have paid for a lovely warm room or mansion. And so, the trial to determine my worthiness for the study tour was over by the end of our first day in London. However, as we were soon to learn, there were more trying times ahead. Just as the Reaper of the Bailey had warned, the case was far from over. Dun dun dun. Of course.
What's going on? Get the fire brigade! Water! Bring water, quick! What the? How did this happen?
I don't know, sir. By the time I got here, it was already engulfed.
No one was supposed to be allowed in here before we started investigating. No. Oh, good God. There's someone in there.
Santa, step back.
Oh, this can't be.
Who was it? Or if it was Mr. McGilded or if it's someone else. I think Mr. McGilded probably started the fire, but some people may have wanted him dead too. I could think of a couple probably. The end for that chapter. Dun dun dun. And so we have finished that chapter, and I hope you all enjoyed that. I very much did. I believe there's 2 more chapters. Typically I know with the Phoenix Wright one at least, each chapter got longer. So it'll probably be 2 or 3 episodes at least for the next chapter. If not 4, we'll see though. But I hope you all enjoyed that, and I will see you all next time in another episode of The Great Ace Attorney. Bye everyone, and thank you for watching.